Hello, welcome to this video about essay writing. Without further ado, let's get on. First, important to know when you write your essay, right, you must have the historical knowledge. You must go and memorize historical knowledge of key events. After that, you can slowly plug in whichever key event, key knowledge that you need into your essay based on your main point, right? So your examples cannot be generic examples, right? You have to be clear. For example, what would I consider generic if you write things like the Japanese killed a lot of people without reason? As you can see, this is kind of very generic in terms of the facts, right? As compared to someone who wrote the Japanese initiated the Sukching. So you have the historical fact of the Sukching. Then you have what is Sukching, the screen for anti-Japanese elements. Then you will be sent the beaches to be shot based on very loose criteria. So this is all very specific facts, very specific details that you need to know in order to answer your essay question. Now, important, the SEQ is an assessment of how well you can use your historical knowledge to answer the question given. Hence, you must plan out, write the skeleton before you write it down, right? Because everything must look like this: the point, the elaboration, and explanation. It's just like you're doing an inference, just that in this case, you don't have the sources to fall back on. You have to use your historical knowledge as your evidence to elaborate on your main point. So everything will go back to the main point, right? Your main point must be very clear because everything else is anchored upon this main point, right? The key thing here is that everything is anchored on the first line, the first paragraph. What is the main point you're talking about? Okay, then your writing format will be like this. Your PU paragraph times 2, point elaboration, explanation, and link times 2, right? Again, this is similar to how you would write your inference question. It's just that you must use your historical knowledge instead of the sources in this case. Moving on. For an example, if I ask you why you failed your exam, right? Then you will tell me, I failed my exam because let's say I didn't do the questions. I did not do the questions, right? And then I did not, maybe I got a lot of questions wrong. Okay, is this enough to tell me why you failed your exams? All right, these are your facts, right? The facts is you did not do the question or you got a lot of them wrong. So based on these facts, right, how do you explain how these evidences actually led to your failure? Because it clearly shows a lack of understanding, right? It shows a lack of understanding, it shows a lack of study, it shows a lack of hard work. So the evidence, the historical facts are I didn't do the question, I got a lot of them wrong. And so my implication for this to explain why I failed is that this show a lack of understanding, this show a lack of study, lack of hard work, which goes back to this. Right? The reasons why I got all the questions wrong because I didn't study, I lack understanding, and therefore I failed my exam. So a clear PU paragraph. So let's look at this. Explain why the Chinese middle school students were resentful of the British. Now, the outcome is normally at the back, right? Sometimes it's not at the back. You have to look carefully. In this case, the outcome here is resentment, right? So there must be something, a trigger that led to the, and who is the main topic here is the Chinese middle school students. There must be a trigger that led to them being resentful of the British. So that trigger will be your main point. In this case, the trigger is going to be the national service implementation. National service implementation. Right? This is your trigger. Alright. So what are you going to write for your details? Right? Write down the skeleton first. Alright. So the details will be here. What exactly is national service? Right? Are there any rumors? Right? Are there any rumors? Are there any extended information that you need to write down about national service? And that was that there was a rumor that it will be sent to the Malayan jungles, right? What is national service? Then you write, of course, military, right? Serving in the military for 2 years, 2 years plus for the British, for the British. So this is my skeleton, and then the rumors, of course, will be sent to Malayan jungles. Okay. After that, the next thing you'll write down, once I have my anchor here, my anchor is the trigger factor, which is a national service implementation. My details, I'll write what is it, and any possible rumors, extended information of what is it. Now, for my explanation, I'm supposed to write how this led to resentment, because this is my outcome, right? Resentment. So, because all these things, right, disrupted the studies. Okay, the main idea here is it disrupted the studies. Okay, it disrupted the studies and they were already angry. Why are they already angry? They are already angry because they were not allowed to study in China, and hence because they can't do that, they can't get the jobs, get a lot of local civil service jobs, especially. All right. So I'm very clear here. What is my main point? Everything anchors on my main point, national service implementation. What is my details? What is it? Right? What are the rumors? And that's the last part is how do these details actually lead to resentment, which is the outcome that I'm trying to explain, right? This resentment. Well, it led to resentment because of a lot of disrupted studies, making them very angry, right? And the fact that they are already angry because they were already not allowed by the British to go overseas to study in China. So how will the answer look like? It will look something like this. All right, can you see my main point here? Everything is going to anchor on my main point, which is announcement of national service. Then I write here, what is national service? Implemented shortly after the British return. Able-bodied Chinese middle school students who serve the army. Then here's my additional information to add, right? Additional info. There are also rumors that sent to the Malayan to fight in the emergency. Now this should be enough for my evidence, and now I'm moving on to my explanation, which I'm trying to explain the outcome that I have picked out, which is resentment. So how does this actually lead to resentment? Well, it led to resentment as it meant that their studies were further disrupted, as was already the case during the war. They were unhappy they cannot further their studies in China due to the fear of communist influence. Thus, they imply that by not allowing us, by making us go for an NS, you're not caring about interests or well-being, and hence, see, it's very clear, and hence, all these things led to resentment. So I'm very clear here. My outcome is resentment. My topic is national service in Singapore was the thing that led to resentment. So I'm going to explain my whole paragraph based on this central idea, right? Explain your whole paragraph on your central idea. This is how your paragraph has scope and has focus. Now, another example here, explain what led to the outbreak of riots. Now, in this case, here is the thing, outbreak of riots is your outcome that you want to explain. Okay? Then you must think, what is your anchor now among the Chinese middle school students? What led to the outbreak of riots? Again, you can talk about the trigger once again. The trigger, which is the national service. So again, in your details, you write what is it, right? Any additional info. Then you can also include, right? Why are they angry? They are unhappy with these things. That will be your details. All these things are for my details. Then you must link it to outbreak of riots. So how does this unhappiness that they felt led to the outbreak of riots? Right? That is the second part. So it's all the riots start from a protest first, right? They protested first, and then the British didn't listen, and so they got angry, and then they from the protest it became a riots. All right. So I'm explaining how everything led to the eventual outcome of riots. So let's look at the answer. Okay, very clear main point. Announcement of national service. Answering the question was the thing that led to my outcome that I need to explain later, which is the outbreak of riots. Okay, then I go on to explain to talk about what is this announcement of national service. Well, able-bodied to be conscripted, serve in the military, rumors to be sent to Malayan jungle to fight the emergency, unhappiness as during the occupation they have already disrupted their studies and they could not return to Singapore if they want to further studies in China, as the British were fearful of communist influence. So, all this unhappiness, how did it lead to riots? That's why I bold the second part. This led to the riots, as it showed the British didn't care, right? Because of all these things, it clearly showed that the British didn't care for them, didn't care for their well-being, and so disappointed they went to protest. The protest was rejected, hence the police were deployed to end the demonstration, which sparked more anger and resolve to fight back, which resulted in the middle school riots. Can you see? I am explaining how my main sentence here led to my outcome that I want to achieve. Okay? So all your explanation must go back to the outcome that you want to achieve. Alright, so the reason you are memorizing your facts is so that you can use your facts, right, in the exam to answer the question. Okay, I don't like to give moral answers. I like you to understand the technique. The technique is you have to think about what is going to be your anchor point first, in this case announcement of national service, and then which facts you're going to use that you have memorized. In this case, you're going to use the Chinese middle school students, NS, why they're angry, right, and why they cannot study overseas their study, right, and what they thought about NS. And then in your explanation, this will be your in your own words. How does this lead to the outbreak of riots, which is the outcome again? Because it shows the British didn't care for them, showed little interest, which led to anger and protest, which eventually led to um, the resolve to fight back, and of course the outbreak of the middle school riots. Alright, so this is the technique for you to write your essay question. Oh, okay, so all the best.